Hello, welcome to lesson number 5 in Spiral 2. Today our topic is fractions and decimals. This lesson is going to be a little bit longer because there's a little bit more to cover and I want to go over a couple of things for some people. So the goal is I want you to have an understanding of how to work with fractions and decimals. So our first example here in the note is we want to place the following fractions in order from smallest to largest. Check your answer by turning them into decimals. Let's forget this, okay? We can do this because we know how to use a number line now. So let's create ourselves a number line. Let's figure out what is important for this number line. I know I have to go into the negatives. All right, there's two negative numbers there, so I need to go into the negatives. So I'm going to start in the middle here. I'm going to put 0 right there. There's one whole, and for now, there's negative one whole. Now, I see a couple of improper fractions. So let's see if we can convert them to, that one's already in the right form, into mixed fractions. So 27 over 5, so we'll do this off to the side here. So 27 over 5. Now I know that in 27, there's going to be 5 wholes. It's 5, excuse me, 5 times 5 is 25. So I know I have 5 wholes. That means I'd have 2 left over. All right. So 27 over 5 is really 5 and 2/5. Next one is negative 7/3. So let's convert that one. So it's still negative. Now I know that two wholes, so 3 and 3, that would give me 6. All right. That would leave me with an extra 1/3 left over. So I know this one is, you're probably sitting there going, what is he doing? Sorry, there's 2 wholes with a 1/3 left over. All right. So that means that negative 7/3 is negative 2 1/3. So let's start with our easy numbers. 1/2 is by far the easiest to work with. On a number line, that's where 1/2 would fall. So it's now on my number line. Where do I want to go next? Doesn't really matter. We can go in order. So what about 5 and 2/5? Well, 5 and 2/5 is going to be way over here. So let's say this is 5. So there, we'll call that 5 and 2/5. Oops. All right. So 5 and 2/5. It's way off the number line here. So that one's placed. Negative 2 3/4. So that means we got to go to negative 2, negative 3. So negative 2, and if I break this one into quarters, there is negative 2 3/4. So that one's done. Now 5/8. Okay, 5/8. We've got to break 5/8. It's between 0 and 1, so we got to break it into 8 parts. So this first line segment here is in half right now. There, I just broke it into quarters. There's 4 equal parts. So I break it into 8 equal parts. It'll look like that. So 5/8 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. 5/8. So that one's taken care of. And negative 2 1/3. So we go back to the negative 2 way over here. And now I got to break this line into thirds. So I'm going to use a different color. So here's my line. I'm going to break it into equal parts. So 1, 2, 3. So that means right there is negative 2 1/3. So therefore, putting them in order, we want to go smallest to largest. Smallest is the farthest away from 0 to the left. So that means it would be negative 2 3/4. Then we would have negative 2 1/3. Moving across, I come to 1/2. Then I come to 5/8. Then I come to 5 and 2/5. All right. So just using our visual display, that's how we figure out the order of our fractions. So over here, there's a question in the top corner. If you have a little bit of space, what is a common denominator? Okay. So a common denominator is a number that each denominator divides into equally. All right. So a common denominator is a number that each denominator will divide into equally. So let's do an example of that down here. So what are our denominators? So moving across, 1/2. So I had a denominator of 2. I had a denominator of 5. I had a denominator of 4 for 2 3/4. A denominator of 8. And a denominator of 3. All right. So I'm going to do the multiples for these guys. So 2 times 1 is 2, and then we start going multiplying by 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and so on. Let's hope that's enough. Going up by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20. The other one only went up to 20. Let's go up by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 14, 16, and 20. Going up by 8s, 8, 16, 24, and of course that one's not very friendly. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. So we have to continue these numbers on and on and on until we reach a number that is common to each one of them. So obviously this example is not the nicest for this part of it, but we know that as we get greater and greater, we're probably going to hit, it's going to continue going. I think actually the common denominator for this is going to be 120, which is not a very nice example. So let's not worry about that. And let's just move on because I'll give you a better example a little later on here. Okay, fractions to decimals. So you should be comfortable with this from grade 7, grade 8. So 4 over 7. I've got the process over here. So if we're going fractions to decimal, we need to take our numerator, that's your top number, and divide by your denominator, that's your bottom. So for this one, we will have 4 divided by 7, so that's what we put into the calculator, and we get 0.57, and I'm looking at my calculator, and there's no really repeating pattern, so let's go to 3 decimal places. Now, how do you do 2 and a 6th? Well, we don't really have to include the 2, because we know that the 2 represents 2 wholes. So there's going to be 2 wholes and our part, okay? So the 2, write that in, is a whole, so we don't have to include it in the calculation, all right? 1 divided by 6, so if I punch that into the calculator, I get 0.1666 repeated. The dot on top indicates repetition. Oh my gosh, I'm losing it here. I already have the decimal there, so it's just 1/6 repeated, and the 1.6 repeat, or 0.16 repeated, that comes from doing 1 divided by 6. Okay, so you do not have to include the whole number in your calculation. All right. So that being said, I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to start the next video fresh. So take a couple seconds, kind of shake it off, and then continue on into the next video. And see you then.